Hello and welcome to the 12th edition of Voices from the Valley. I'm Shereen Bhan. Well, a couple of things haven't changed. The focus on AI continues, but what is different in its nuancing is a focus on launches and partnerships. To announce a launch and a partnership here on Voices from the Valley, we have two gentlemen, Umesh and Prasad. Many thanks for joining us. Uniphore and KPMG coming together. It's an unusual partnership, Umesh. Let's start by talking about that.
Well, first of all, welcome back to Silicon Valley, Shereen.
It's good to be back.
Every year it's great to have you here. Like you mentioned, AI is appending everything that we know to be true about the business, about the world of enterprise. And that also includes business models of traditional and legacy businesses, including our customers and partners. If you think deeply about it, it's not too unusual for KPMG and Uniphore. Uniphore is an innovation leader. We've been pioneering developing an AI platform, which we now call the Business AI Cloud.
Yeah.
And the power of that platform is to deliver real business outcomes, automation, disruption within the enterprise. But that requires advisory, change management, hand-holding the customer on how do they think differently now, where they used to think headcount and human capital, now they're thinking headcount, human capital, plus AI agents. And KPMG as a partner is perfectly suited. They understand my customer's domain. They know their internal business process. And as KPMG itself is looking to transform its current business model, this partnership is a very natural coming together of a consulting leader and an AI innovation leader.
Well, a consulting leader and an AI innovation leader coming together. What does it mean to start with for KPMG? But more importantly, what is it that you're hearing from your clients at this point in time and how they would like to use the Business Cloud AI?
Yeah, very symbiotic relationship. KPMG, as you know, 120-year-old firm, multi-dimensional in its services, audit, tax, advisory. And with AI and the advent of AI, we fully recognize that the market is shifting, that the profession of professional services as we know it is shifting, and clients are expecting us to bring technology-embedded solutions to bear.
Right.
The old days of just purely man-hours services followed by PowerPoints and stuff like that is shifting to a much more AI-enabled service.
Yeah.
And we recognize that our core assets are really our knowledge, our intelligence, our experience of having worked with clients across the world for over 100 years. And so we want to focus on harnessing that knowledge. And what we need is technology partnerships that can help us bring that to life.
Right.
And so that's where I think we started working with Uniphore in unlocking some of that value in the marketplace. So we're really excited to do that, and we'll talk about the shifts in what we're seeing in the market as we go along.
I'll get to the shifts in just a second, but Umesh, how are you bringing this to life, so to speak? I mean, give us an example of what you've been able to do already for KPMG, for instance.
So if you think about a typical customer engagement, whether it's an insurance customer, a telecom customer, or an oil and gas customer, every of these enterprises is looking at the power of generative AI, these power of large language models or small language models, AI agents, to change and transform their internal operations. If you think about it in the past, how KPMG had engaged with these clients was deeply understand each business process, find optimization opportunities, and send their industry experts within that enterprise to drive that transformation. Prasad just said KPMG is a knowledge company now. Here's what that means. If you think about the over 2,000 partners that KPMG has, each one of them have so much knowledge embedded in their mind, in their documents. And using the Uniphore platform, a firm like KPMG can now capture that knowledge from the minds of people into a small language model. Okay. They can fine-tune their own branded KPMG small language model for oil and gas, KPMG small language model for insurance. And now as KPMG approaches their clients, it's now saying that, look, I have this asset, I have this intellectual property in the form of a small language model. KPMG experts have worked on it. We worked with a tech partner called Uniphore. We've developed AI agents. And so we now think there are 7 or 8 processes in your company that are ready for disruption. We can give you efficiency. And by the way, KPMG can now sign up to bigger outcomes. And that also gives them an opportunity to think about a new business model, which is the most exciting part of this partnership.
What does it mean in terms of what Umesh spoke of, in terms of rewiring and re-engineering the KPMG business model?
Yeah, I mean, at the heart of it, it is two shifts, right? One is what I first said about the shift towards a what's now popularly known as services software, which is using AI and delivering your services through AI. That's one major shift we've seen. The other shift is, as a result of AI, customers are expecting us to really drive towards the broader outcomes that they're looking for. You know, when you think about, let's say, pick a finance process, and you want to bring AI to your AP and AR processing, that is not the outcome. That's only a part of the outcome. The real outcome they're looking for is improvement of their DSO.
Yeah.
So broader outcomes where we have the kind of expertise and the scale and the industry knowledge to bring multidimensional sort of expertise to go solve for those outcomes, that's a big shift that we're seeing. So combine that with the shift towards AI-centric delivery models, AI-leveraged delivery models with driving broader and more ambitious outcomes using AI agents. That's where it's headed.
Now, as you look at the clients that you're working with, is the plumbing in place, or you know, where are we on that level? And in terms of the latency and the catch-up, I mean, what is the distance to cover at this point in time?
So both very important things, Shereen, that you're driving this conversation towards. Let's think about the plumbing. Uniphore has seen very rapid growth in new customers in the last 12 months. We now serve close to 2,000 enterprises. Approximately 300
And
of
how many customers did you add over the year?
So about 600 in just 1 year. And about 300 of our customer base are part of Fortune 500. So these are big banks, big telecom firms, not just in the US, but Europe, Middle East, etc. What are we hearing from them? The number one impediment of getting these AI initiatives working at scale is the data bottleneck. So despite big investments in data infrastructure, data lakes, ETL tools, chief data officers still feel like their data is fragmented. It's not ready for AI. And so the first thing that we wanted to solve with our latest business AI cloud is to make it easy for CIOs to say, look, data could be in hundreds of systems.
Yeah.
We recognize that if you're a company which is more than 10 years old, your data infrastructure is probably not the most sophisticated, and so we'll make it easy for you.
Okay.
Our technology automates that. What's the number two thing we've heard? Is that, look, there's hyperscalers, there's these cloud companies who are giving us AI platforms, but AI sovereignty is a huge concern for these large companies. Where is my data? Which cloud can I or can I not run my AI stack? And by the way, I need to have the option. I could move from cloud A to cloud B, or now on-premise is back in vogue.
Okay.
So the fact that the Uniphore Business AI Cloud is completely sovereign. You can run it on-premise, you can run it on any of the clouds, and that gives you complete optionality. Now let's talk about if you were to solve these big structural issues for the CIOs and get the AI platforms embedded into these enterprises, why aren't they scaling fast enough?
Yeah.
And we've come to realize, like has been the case in many tech transitions, IT usually takes the lead in choosing the platform, putting it in place, getting security right. But until business users start to innovate very fast with these platforms, the real adoption doesn't take place. And again, a testament to our partnership. As we partnered with KPMG, we initially would show up with a lot of concepts of prompt engineering, let's fine-tune your models, only to realize that the partners and associates at KPMG don't speak this language. So our platform had to get simplified, and the user interface we almost had to think about a consumer AI lens with our platform. So we are in the era of ChatGPT. We added a whole natural language interface. So don't worry about coding. Don't worry about prompt engineering. Don't worry about using the words fine-tune this model. Just give a goal to the AI platform that I'm an expert in insurance. I'm looking to automate the claims process. For you to be an expert as an AI agent in claims process, read up our company policy, read up regulation, and tell me when you're ready. Think as simple an interface as that. We call it the business AI user interface. To make it ready for the partners of KPMG to start innovating, so that the partners are not waiting for a person from Uniphore to show up and say, what do you need? I'll code it.
Yeah.
So the simplification for business users is a huge focus of what we are driving.
What are we talking about in terms of spends today? Is there wait and watch? Is it still pause, or is there in fact a sense of urgency to say, hey, if we miss the bus, then we're going to be out of the race?
So look, if you think across the globe and from a geography perspective, it's clear that North America is in the lead. There is no doubt. In fact, it seems to us as we do global business that America is about 12 months ahead of their European counterparts. Europe is beginning to get to the bandwagon, but it seems like they're a year behind in experimentation and POC.
And what about markets like India?
So let's look at Asia more broadly first. Middle East, as we know, is making big moves. They're not taking baby steps here. There are big moves, and we should talk about what's happening in the Middle East.
Yeah, tell me what's happening in the Middle East.
Well, look, I think there's a very concerted effort, certainly between UAE and Saudi Arabia. Those two countries, they are determined to not miss the AI wave and make this an alternate revenue source in coming years to oil and gas. And how are they doing it? Saudi Arabia has announced this company called Humane, which is the national AI champion. There's G42 in UAE. Every major AI player from Silicon Valley are part of that ecosystem. So is Uniphore associated with Humane. And we are now beginning to see American companies invest in Humane, which is reverse. People used to think about going to that region when you need capital. We've seen now announcements with AMD and Cisco investing and becoming shareholders of Humane. Because what those countries are saying is not only are we going to be consumers of the chips, the models, and the application
but
layer,
we're also going to drive innovation.
we're driving innovation, and we want American companies to become a revenue source. So we're going to innovate on business models together. And I think let's make this real. We're talking a lot about partnerships and things like that. With KPMG, we are now getting live with one of their Fortune 100 clients on a use case that, as Uniphore, as an innovation company, we would have never imagined. This is a procurement use case. There are billions of dollars being lost in contracting in these companies. And so KPMG is associated with some of these large organizations in driving that efficiency. We have now trained small language models and AI agents that are going to ease out this procurement contracting process. KPMG has branded that product Contract IQ. This now becomes a horizontal product that KPMG is ready to sell to oil and gas companies, to telecom companies across the board. So
that's the ancillary revenue kicker that he was talking about.
There you go, new business models. And all of this needs compute to run. We have a massive shortage of compute in America already. We are beginning to sense shortage in Europe because these use cases require so much compute. And that's where the Middle East, with their big data centers, are raising their hand and say, look, we have compute. And we are willing to lease it out at competitive rates. So it's becoming a global ecosystem. And I think geopolitically, the countries that are going to get aligned to America will play in one ecosystem, and we'll see another ecosystem getting aligned to China. And hopefully, India stays in the West camp here.
Well, that certainly seems to be the case at this point in time. We're not engaging with China on any of these issues, and of course we do have the ISET in place with the US to work on emerging and critical technologies. But Umesh, you talked about, and I think both of you emphasized what's happening on the small language models as well as on the agent side. And I think so much of the focus and the attention has been consumed by the large language models and what's happening there, and how this is the sort of magic wand and the silver bullet. But take me through what you're seeing actually happen on the impact and the implications of putting these small language models to use. What are you seeing today on the ground?
Well, first, let's talk about large language model versus a small language model. A large language model, it could be an 80 billion parameter model that a Llama has released or OpenAI has released. And a small language model is a 7 or 8 billion parameter model. First of all, the cost difference is about 100 to run a token of a large language model versus a small language model, 100 times the difference of inferencing cost, right? So that's significant. As we look across our 2,000 customers and we think about all possible use cases, automating customer support, automating marketing, automating back office. We are yet to come across a single credible use case that will need a large language model. So these small language models are perfectly equipped to deliver big ROI and big business outcomes within the enterprise. Then we should ask, why do these large language models exist? They exist for big consumer applications like search, like what Perplexity and Google are going after, or ChatGPT is solving. And that's where the big innovation is, or self-driving cars by Tesla. So when it comes to business AI, small language models are absolutely winning the architecture game, all right? Now within that, let's take a few more examples. An insurance company in the US by regulation needs to have, if you were to file a claim of health insurance, it has to go through 3 executives of the company who have to study the claims, your ECG reports, doctor's reports, and say approved or disapproved. And by regulation, a human being has to sign the final yes or no. AI agents now are capable of running this entire approval chain without a human in the loop and only give it to the final signatory to say, we've checked everything, this is either yes or no, right? Now think about an insurance company in US that's processing hundreds and thousands of claims every month. The efficiency that they are beginning to already experience in one process, which is claims. Customer retention. People have run for years analytics and cohorts and customer churn behavior and this and that. These small language models are really good at learning everything about customer behavior and predicting a pattern. And now an AI agent could say, I think so-and-so customer might be at the risk of churning, so I'm proactively giving them a discount package to keep them in the loop. So just productivity gains across the board is what we are beginning to see in our customer base.